Hello, my Leo friends. This is Kristen Redman, Astrological Intuitive, and today we are going to be discussing what planetary impacts are going to be happening here in the skies in 2021 for you. Now, these are just general horoscopes for Leo. If you want to know more about how your specific birth chart is being impacted, or as I call it, your roadmap, how it's being impacted by the energies of 2021, I highly recommend reaching out for a reading. I have a link below. Just click on that and we'll go ahead and get you set up with a reading, and we can look and see how your specific chart will be impacted by these energies. But let's get right to it, right? Just in general, for all Leos, this is going to be quite a year for relationships. A majority of what's going to be happening in 2021 revolves around relationships, so I hope you be ready for it, because I know you do, because you're ruled by the heart, and it's all about love and relationships and romance, and by golly, there is some good stuff coming for you. I tell you what, finally. But there's a lot of things that are going to be happening. So let's start with those relationships, right? Because it's so vital, and it's probably the biggest thing that's going to be happening to your chart for like 30 years, like legit, no way. So now what we have is Jupiter, the planet of luck, right? Opportunity and expansion. And wherever it lands, it brings new beginnings, luck, and opportunity, right? This dude is going to be hitting at the top of your marriage, relationship, and partnership house this year, all right? Just started in December of 2020, and it's going to be zipping on through for the remainder of 2021. Not only do we have the planet of luck starting there, it's also the planet Saturn is coming right behind it. And this guy, oh, I didn't tell you, Jupiter takes 12 years, right? So it hasn't been there for 12 years. Planet of luck hasn't been in your house of relationships for 12 years, right? So then you have Saturn that takes 30 years to come back around. This guy is also coming through, and it's going to stay there for 2 years. Saturn's going to be there for 2 years, where Jupiter's going to be there for 1. So you have Saturn there, and what Saturn does to support Jupiter is it gives it legs, it gives it stability, and it gives it structure for the next 30 years, okay? 30 years Saturn's going to be working on to make sure that there's a good solid ground in that area. So with that, right, this is going to be bringing a new level of like maturity and understanding for you in relationships. That's what Saturn does, right? It has you looking at people's responsibilities in these relationships. Okay, so let's say you're in a committed relationship. Saturn comes through and it has you objectively looking at this year, what are my responsibilities in this relationship and what are yours? I will take these and you will not. So what Saturn is asking you to do is to set clear boundaries this year on what you're willing to take, what's your responsibilities, and what are not your responsibilities, and to make sure that you have that conversation with your partner, right? Not only do we have that, but we also have Mars going through this year that's really going to be triggering that house to give you that confidence, to give you that courage to be able to say, look, I need this, right? There's energies that have started in here that were really triggered under the influence of the eclipse cycle that happened back in 2017, really trying to bring some new beginnings for you in terms of relationships. If you haven't seen those things really taking foot, this is the year that you're going to see the fruit of what started in 2017 comes to a completion cycle here. So whether you wanted to start, something new, maybe you were looking for somebody back then, and it's starting to come through now, that's what it does, right? Saturn, no matter what, is going to bring a good stabilizing energy to relationships, right, for the next 30 years. So that's something pretty massive to have. But then to have Jupiter, the planet of just blind luck, right, coming through and bringing some good luck and some opportunities in there too, that's always nice to have too, right? Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So now let's move on to the house of money for you, Leo, right? We got some pretty interesting stuff happening in that second house of finances. That planet Jupiter, right, is going to be, okay, So what happens is Jupiter is going to be going through the next house. Seventh house represents marriage and partnerships. The eighth house represents debt, right? And other people's money. So we have Jupiter kind of moving out of that seventh house for just a second. It's in the springtime. It's like mid-May to mid July, where it'll move into Pisces. It moves out of that sign for just a second. It gives us a little bit of a glimpse on what's going to be happening for 2022. Now, when Jupiter moves through that house of debt, it's definitely a time to go through and reassess where your money's at, who you owe money to. But Jupiter also brings lucky breaks your way, and it can be in the form of, well, you know what, how the eighth house works, it's other people's money, okay? We'll be honest. So maybe your partner gets a raise, your spouse gets a raise, your spouse gets some inheritance or something that helps you pay down that debt. But if you aren't with somebody, right, that other person's money could very well be another stimulus check that comes through that it's benefiting you, okay, right? But regardless, there's going to be stuff that has you really objectively focusing on your debts, wanting to pay them off, and giving you the opportunities to make that happen. That's a glimpse of it. And then at the end of 2021, Jupiter moves back into Pisces, into that house of debt of yours again, and then it gives you that the remainder of 2022 where Jupiter is going to be there really making sure that you get those debts under control, right? Absolutely. Absolutely. So, growing wealth. Yes, that was a part of that too. Working on growing the wealth. So now another thing that we have going on is in the house of career, right? Starting in 2019, at the beginning of 2019, we had the planet Uranus move into your 10th house of career. Now, this takes 80 years for this dude to go around the wheel, like where Saturn takes 30 years and Jupiter takes 12 years. Uranus takes 80 years to go around the wheel. And when it moves into a house like your career house, it's going to be there for 7 to 8 years, okay? When it does that, let me hit this really quick. When it does that, it can trigger some pretty interesting stuff, right? Uranus is the planet of unexpected things, and it's very electric, and it does some crazy things. So when Uranus goes into a house, it can make you abruptly change your career path. It can make you totally change careers. It can also, because the 10th house has to do with your reputation and how the world sees you, it could abruptly change like your standing too. You know, you could all of a sudden go through a divorce. You could all of a sudden have a legal situation with taxes or something where it becomes known to the world what's going on, okay? Uranus going through, what it does is it shakes things up and it changes things because it says, this wasn't working for you. This career wasn't working for you. This is more authentic, because that's what Uranus is about, is authenticity. This is more authentic to you. Let's push you out of your comfort zone so you can do this, which is more fitting for you and your path now. Not you 10 years ago, not you 5 years ago, now, right? So as it does that, it's going to kind of keep on transiting through there. And if you've been feeling that nudge to change careers, right, I tell you what, you're going to get quite a push when Mars goes through there. And that happens January 6th through March 4th, okay? Beginning part of this year, beginning part of 2021, you're going to be feeling that push as Mars goes through that career sector where it hasn't been for 2 years either, starting in 2019. How ironic is that? So you had that push then. It's coming back now, but this time the confidence is behind it. The drive is there, the push is there, the motivation is there to really make the changes that are necessary so that way you can be in a career that's more congruent for what works for your path now, right? Absolutely. So now let's move on to the eclipses and where they're going to be this year. Eclipses bring new energy, new beginnings, and they can drastically change things around, just like Uranus does. Where this is going to be happening is on the 5th house and the 11th house axis. This works great, okay, if you're looking for a relationship, Leo, because all of that energy of stabilization and luck and opportunity that's going through your house of partnership and relationships. The fifth house deals with romance. So you have eclipses that are going to be working with you May 26th and December 4th to bring new beginnings into this relationship, right? Opportunities for romance, opportunities to meet people. These things are going to be happening under the influence of these new relationships. Now, if you're not looking for that, the fifth house deals with romance, though, too. We talked about that at the very beginning. These energy cycles are coming through. They haven't been there for 10 years, okay? And they really want to bring some energy through to bring you the romance that your heart needs, Leo, right? Now, another thing, too, that the fifth house rules is all things Leo. So that's romance, creativity, the ability to be confident in who you are and your confidence in general, and also children too, right? So to have these eclipses happening in the house of children for you, that indicates that your children may be going on to the next phase, whether that's from baby to toddler, maybe that's from child to teenager, or maybe that's from teenager that's in the house to one that's graduating and moving on, or even for older children too. This signifies a time for new beginnings for your children as well, that ultimately benefits you because this is about you. They're moving into the next level of maturity, benefits you, and can free up that time for you to have that romance, right? Or to focus on your creativity a little bit more. That falls into that category too, all right? But these eclipses, right, they got triggered in 2020 and they were asking you, okay, what makes you happy? What do you need for romance? What does your heart center need, Leo, huh? What's missing to make these things happen? What are the changes? What are the challenges with your children, huh? What is it that you need to free up your time so you can have greater levels of happiness? That was recognized in 2020, and then it gets actually legs to it and starts happening in 2021. Now, another aspect too, one of the other side of that fifth house is the 11th house. It has to deal with friendship. So in this eclipse that happens on June 10th, you could see some shifts and changes that happen with friends. Maybe it's time for you to start networking with a group that fits better with you. Maybe it's time to start connecting with friends again. You'll see signs at that eclipse that happens in June 10th for that as well too. So let's go on to birthdays. Like I said earlier, if you want to know more about your specific chart and how it's impacted, I highly recommend getting a reading. But in general, for Leo birthdays, if your birthday falls between July 25th and August 7th, Saturn is going to be opposing that Leo sun of yours. This is revealing new levels of maturity to you. You are one of the ones that is going to have to really, really benefit from recognizing whose responsibilities are what and having to draw a line in the proverbial sand that says, I will take this on and this is my role, but this is my boundary. And I'm telling you, I'm setting healthy boundaries for myself by setting boundaries with you, other person, right? Okay, super, super vital for you to define boundaries, especially in relationships, okay? Because this has to do with Saturn that's in that house of marriage and partnerships. So this could be a year where you really have to set clear and obvious boundaries in that area. Okay. If your birthday falls between July 26th and August 23rd, so pretty much all Leos, Jupiter is working with you, bringing luck, bringing opportunity, encouraging you to explore, to get out, to expand your horizons, to push beyond your comfort zones and your self-limiting beliefs, right? Absolutely. Yeah, especially in relationships, okay? Because Jupiter is there in Aquarius, that's where it's making it happen. It's really trying to tell you that this is the key area of growth for the next 12 years is in marriage and partnership and relationships. Business partnerships fall in that too, right? It's not just about romantic relationships that all that good energy is happening in stabilization. It's also who you work with, and business partnerships as well falls in that category. If you have a birthday between July 30th and August 7th, Uranus is going to be squaring your sun. And I tell you what, Uranus is that planet that shakes things up, that's working in our career house right now, trying to change and get you to be more authentic in what your life path is. it's also squaring up against your sun right now, really, really asking you to embrace some changes that are going to help benefit you tremendously. It's saying that there's a responsibility overload on your shoulders, Leo, if your birthday falls in that time frame of July 30th to August 7th, and that there's going to be a lot of restlessness that comes out of it as a result. All right. So just sit back with it. Listen to what the universe is showing you, especially around the time of those eclipses that happen that we talked about, especially that June 10th one, because that one's getting into where your birthday is coming in. What is the universe telling you? What is it asking you? And what do you need to do to be a more true, authentic you as a result? So, my Leo friends, I wish you a wonderful, prosperous, abundant, and romance-filled and happy New Year. Thank you so much for watching, and Happy New Year as I turn off my thing here. Okay, here we go. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye.